But sleep didn't come easy. For one, the room was noisier than usual. He could swear he heard faint tapping from the walls. Not pipes, not the usual hotel noise, tapping, like fingertips drumming. Slow at first, and faster, like someone impatiently waiting for him to react. He tried turning up the AC unit to drown it out, but the sound seemed to weave around the hum, always there in the background. Then there was the TV. He turned it off before bed, remote sitting squarely on the nightstand. But twice he woke up to find it flickering with static. Not channels, not muted programs, just pure hissing static. Each time, the glow lit up the room in a harsh white, casting jagged shadows across the walls. And every time, the remote was still exactly where he'd left it. By 3 a.m., Daniel gave up. Sleep wasn't happening. He turned on every single light in the room, the desk lamp, the bedside lamps, even the harsh ceiling fixture, and sat at the desk with his laptop. He figured maybe getting some work done would take his mind off the unease. That's when he noticed something chilling. The Wi-Fi connection didn't work. Not just slow, not just spotty, it didn't even recognize the hotel's network. He opened the list of available signals. Usually in hotels, you'd see half a dozen networks, from guest Wi-Fi to staff routers and random nearby devices. But here, nothing, just the blank screen. It was as if this room wasn't part of the hotel at all. He frowned, trying again, refreshing the list, turning Wi-Fi on and off, still nothing. Out of habit, he pulled out his phone and tried using data, but that was gone too. No bars, no signal, not even emergency service. Just the dreaded no service message glaring at him. That's when the thought hit him. Was he even in the hotel anymore? The question made no sense. He'd checked in at the front desk, he'd ridden the elevator, he'd walked down the hallway. He was on the 7th floor, he had the key card, the booking app. But sitting there with every light blazing and still feeling like the room was shrinking around him, Daniel couldn't shake the idea that he was somewhere else entirely. Somewhere cut off. He stood up, pacing the floor, trying to rationalize. Maybe the hotel had some kind of Wi-Fi blackout in older rooms. Maybe the cell signal just didn't penetrate thick walls. Logical, right? Except, why would every other room on the floor show up on the app, but his didn't? Why would the evacuation map erase his existence? And that's when he heard it again. The tapping. Not from the wall this time. From inside the closet. Slow, deliberate, like knuckles brushing wood. When he finally made it to morning, Daniel went down to the lobby, groggy and pale. His eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep, his shoulders heavy from a night that felt more like a battle than rest. He approached the front desk with his key card clutched tightly in his hand, like proof that the nightmare wasn't just in his head. "Hey, just curious," he began, trying to sound casual, even though his voice was shaky. "What's up with room 715? Is it under renovation or something?" The clerk, a young guy with neatly combed hair and a name tag that read Ethan, froze for a second before frowning. 715? That's not an active room. We don't assign that one." His tone wasn't defensive, just matter-of-fact, like Daniel had asked about something as ordinary as the breakfast hours. Daniel blinked. "Not active? But you gave me this card last night. It opened a door right between 714 and 716. He slid the key card across the desk. Ethan picked it up, looked at it, and scanned it with a handheld device. A green light blinked. This card was programmed for room 715, yes, but his eyes flicked back up, confused. We don't use that number. There is no door between 714 and 716. Those rooms are directly next to each other. Daniel felt his stomach drop. He gestured toward the elevators. I walked down that hallway. I saw the door. I went inside. I spent the night in there. Ethan's expression shifted, uneasy now. He lowered his voice slightly. Sir, that's not possible. He hesitated, glancing at a coworker, then leaned in closer. We've had guests ask about 715 before, but officially, that room doesn't exist. It hasn't been part of the floor plan for decades. Daniel stared at him. What do you mean, decades? Ethan straightened, clearly realizing he'd said too much. All I can tell you is there is no 715. If your card let you into a door, it must have been some kind of a system glitch. These things happen. He forced a polite smile, the kind that didn't reach his eyes, and slid the card back. Would you like me to reassign you to a different room? Daniel wanted to press him further, to demand an explanation, but the look in the clerk's eyes stopped him. It wasn't just confusion, it was fear. The kind of fear you see when someone knows more than they're willing to say. He pocketed the keycard, nodded stiffly, and accepted a new room assignment. Outwardly, he played along, but inside, his thoughts were racing. If 715 doesn't exist, then where did I just spend the night? As he rode the elevator back up, his reflection stared back at him from the mirrored walls, pale, shaken, with dark circles under his eyes. He thought about the static on the TV, the tapping in the walls, the dead Wi-Fi, and now the revelation that even the hotel staff didn't acknowledge his room. It was official. Something was very, very wrong with 715. And the scariest part was he wasn't sure if he'd just brushed against a glitch in the system or something much older that the hotel had deliberately tried to erase. Here's where things spiral. He considered asking for a new room, but decided not to. Maybe he was overtired, imagining things. He went back up, and sure enough, the same unmarked door was there. His card still worked. Against his better judgment, he went inside again. This time, he noticed new details. The wallpaper had water stains that hadn't been there the night before. Long, uneven marks running down the faded floral print, like something had seeped through the walls. The mirror on the wall had a faint crack down one side, thin but unmistakable. And the air felt colder, not AC cold, damp basement cold, the kind of chill that creeps into your clothes, sticks to your skin, and doesn't let go. Daniel stood in the middle of the room, suitcase still by the door, and for the first time, he thought about leaving. But then again, where would he go at that hour? Every logical part of his brain said, "It's just an old room. Stop overthinking." Still, something deeper inside whispered, "You shouldn't be here." That night, the noises started again. Not tapping this time, whispers. Faint, too soft to make out words, but close enough that he knew they weren't coming from the hallway. They were inside the room. He froze, straining his ears. It was like multiple voices, overlapping, murmuring just beneath the level of understanding. Every time he tried to focus, the whispers slipped away, like they were deliberately hiding their meaning. At one point, he swore he heard his own name. Not shouted, not even clearly spoken, just tucked into the murmurs, like a trick of the ear. His heart hammered. He told himself, "It's just exhaustion. I'm hearing what I want to hear." But the longer it went on, the harder it became to convince himself. He turned on the TV again just for background noise. Static. No channels. No hotel welcome screen. Just black and white snow filling the screen, faint crackles echoing into the room. And here's the detail that sent a shiver through him. The static seemed to pulse in rhythm with the whispers, as if the voices were bleeding through the screen, using it to get closer. Daniel yanked the plug out of the wall. The TV died, but the whispers didn't. If anything, they grew sharper, clearer, pressing in from all directions. He grabbed his pillow and blanket, sat up in bed, and waited. Every second stretched. Every creak in the walls, every sigh of air through the vents felt amplified. By 4 a.m., he was wide awake, trembling, staring at the door like it was the only lifeline he had. He swore, just before the sun came up, he heard a knock, not from outside the room, from inside the closet. On the desk was a drawer. He hadn't opened it before, but curiosity got the better of him. Inside was a thin, leather-bound notebook. Old, yellowed pages. Most were blank, but a few had scribbles. Jagged handwriting, phrases like, "Can't leave," "No one believes me," "This room doesn't belong." Daniel slammed the drawer shut and tried to laugh it off. A prank, maybe. Something left behind by a past guest. But deep down, he knew it was more than that. The words weren't random. They felt desperate, like someone had poured fear straight onto the paper. He sat back in the desk chair, staring at the drawer, trying to convince himself not to think about it. But the longer he sat there, the more his mind replayed those three phrases over and over. Can't leave. The idea twisted in his gut. He tried the lamp switch on the desk. The bulb flickered once, then steadied, casting long shadows against the walls. For a split second, he thought the shadows looked wrong, stretched too far, bending in directions that didn't match the objects. He pushed himself away from the desk and paced the room. The carpet seemed softer in some spots, firmer in others, as if something underneath shifted when he stepped. His eyes kept darting back to the mirror. The faint crack he'd noticed before looked deeper now, jagged like it had spread overnight. He leaned closer. For just a moment, he swore the reflection lagged, like it wasn't quite keeping up with his movement. Trying to shake off the thought, he sat on the bed and flipped open his laptop again, hoping to distract himself. But when the screen came on, it wasn't his desktop. It was black, with a single line of text in the middle. "Why did you come back?" He slammed it shut, heart racing. He hadn't connected to Wi-Fi, hadn't opened any program. The laptop wasn't even online. Yet somehow that message appeared. Daniel grabbed his suitcase and started packing. His plan was simple: go downstairs, check out, and leave the city altogether if he had to. But when he reached for the doorknob, it didn't turn. Not locked, not jammed, just stuck, like the door itself was refusing to move. That's when he heard it again, the whispers. Not faint this time, not muffled through walls, clear, right behind him. And underneath the voices, something else scratched faintly against the inside of the closet door. On his third and final night, he couldn't shake the dread. He left the lights on again, determined to power through. Around midnight, his phone buzzed with a notification from the hotel app. Reminder, check-in complete, room 715. Except now, the number was listed. For the first time, the app recognized his room. But here's the creepy part. Under amenities, it said, last occupied, 1989. Daniel froze. 1989? That was over 3 decades ago, and yet he was standing in it right now. His chest tightened as he stared at the glowing screen. He refreshed the app, hoping it was some glitch. But every time it reloaded, the same chilling line appeared. Last occupied, 1989. The whispers grew louder, no longer just faint murmurs in the background, but layered voices, overlapping each other like dozens of people whispering at once. He couldn't make out words, but the tone was urgent, like they were trying to warn him or trap him. The TV flicked on by itself, blasting static across the room. The light from the screen washed everything in a pale glow. In the reflection of the cracked mirror, he thought he saw movement, shadows pacing behind him, even though he was alone. His phone vibrated again. Another notification popped up. This one didn't look like the normal hotel app alert. It was a plain white box with black text. It read, "Check out, not available." That was it. His heart pounded. He grabbed his suitcase, snapped it shut without caring what he left behind, and yanked at the door handle. This time it opened, though it felt heavier than it should, as if something resisted from the other side. He bolted into the hallway. The corridor lights flickered, dimmer than ever, and for one terrifying moment, he noticed the numbers on the doors had changed. 710, 711, 713, 717, no 714, no 716, and definitely no 715. Still, he didn't stop. He rushed to the elevator, jamming the button again and again until the doors opened. Inside, the mirror-lined walls reflected his pale face a dozen times over. He looked away, refusing to stare too long in case the reflections moved on their own. By the time the elevator reached the lobby, Daniel felt like he had aged years. He didn't even bother to check out. He ran past the clerk, through the sliding glass doors, and straight into the night air. And here's the part that stuck with him the most. When he finally looked back at the hotel, counting the rows of windows, the section where room 715 should have been was just a blank wall. When he checked out, the front desk again insisted there was no such room. He showed them the app notification, his hands shaking as he turned the screen toward the clerk. But the moment he refreshed it, the listing was gone. Vanished, like it had never been there. The clerk frowned and called the manager over. They pulled up the official floor plan on a tablet, scrolling carefully through every floor. And sure enough, no room 715, no blank door, just smooth, unbroken walls between 714 and 716. The spot where Daniel swore he had entered was marked as solid construction. Daniel argued, pointing out exactly where the door had been, but the staff only looked at him with polite confusion. They weren't mocking him. They weren't dismissive. They genuinely didn't seem to understand what he was talking about. It was like the very idea of room 715 didn't exist to them. Out of desperation, Daniel even checked his key card. Maybe it would prove something. But when the manager scanned it, the record showed it had been programmed for room 714 the entire time. Daniel nearly laughed. It was impossible. He had walked into that other room. He had slept in it. And yet, according to their system, none of it had ever happened. With no proof left, he gave up. He checked out quietly and left the hotel, suitcase rolling heavily behind him. The sunlight outside felt unreal, like he was stepping out of a dream. But deep inside, he knew it wasn't a dream. Years later, Daniel still refuses to stay in that city. Even booking another hotel nearby makes him uneasy. He tells people the story sometimes, usually with a nervous laugh, like he's trying to convince himself it wasn't real. But every time he gets to the part about the mildew, his face changes. Because that smell, the damp, sour, unmistakable scent of that forgotten room, still follows him. Not always, not every day, but sometimes, when he checks into a perfectly normal hotel, he'll catch it again. Just for a second. A faint whiff like the walls around him are holding a memory that doesn't want to die. And in those moments, Daniel can't help but wonder if room 715 could vanish from the records, from the maps, even from the building itself. Then maybe it's not gone at all. Maybe it's just waiting for him or for someone else. So, what exactly happened? There are a few theories people throw around. Some say it's an architect's ghost, a room that was built, then sealed up, but still lingers. Others think it's a time slip, a glitch in reality where certain spaces phase in and out. And then there are the more chilling theories, that the room is a trap, pulling in unlucky guests who happen to stumble across it, feeding off their fear. Whatever it was, Daniel's experience reminds us of one thing. Always trust your instincts. If a place doesn't feel right, if it doesn't match the map, if the vibes are just off, don't ignore that feeling. Sometimes your gut knows more than you do. Before we wrap this up, I want to remind you again, if you've ever had a creepy experience like this, whether it was at a hotel, a house, or even just a place that didn't feel like it should exist, send your story to the email in the description. We'd love to feature your account in a future video. And if you enjoyed this story tonight, make sure to like this video, hit subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. We drop new horror and mystery stories every week, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Stay safe out there. And remember, sometimes the scariest places are the ones that aren't supposed to exist at all.